Hi, I'm Kenneth WAJDA. I'm a professional photographer here in Colorado. Welcome to another one of my photography talks. So today I want to talk about sharpness. I've noticed, and other people have mentioned this to me, and I was thinking about this week. Some people equate sharpness with quality. And I was at an exhibit at the Nelson-Atkins Museum in Wisconsin? In Omaha? I think in Omaha. And there was Omaha, Nebraska? And there was a exhibit of circus photographs from the 1920s. And they were beautiful black and white prints of documentary photographers. If I can find out who was in that, I think I took some notes. I'll see if I can put a link down below, but I may not be able to find it, but I'll look. But that was the most beautiful black and white photographs of carnies and people leading elephants into a big top. But they weren't tack sharp. They were filmed from the 1920s. And they had some motion blur, and they had some parts of them that weren't tack sharp. And nowadays people would say, oh, that's a bad lens. But there was a quality to those that made them into something. And I think that right now we're in a place where, because we're technologically minded, because we're thinking so much of technology, we're thinking, oh, well, we have to look and see what's the DxO score, or how does it rate with lines per inch? And does any of that matter when content is king? Because I swear, to me, some photos look too sharp. Some of them almost look clinical. And you know, it's almost like the idea of 4K televisions and HD televisions. You know, the only reason, when we were kids, we didn't watch blurry television. But now, standard definition looks blurry, only because televisions were only 15 and 19 inches wide. The only reason you need HD is because you're going to go 50 inches with the TV, and now it's so much bigger than what we ever watched. And then now they're coming out with 4K, or they have 4K out. That's only so you can have a 70-inch television. The truth is, if you want big resolution, you can certainly get it with a large format camera, but resolution isn't the whole thing to a story. And with digital, a lot of people seem to be bogged down by how sharp is it? Oh, is it tack sharp? Now, if you miss focus, there's a difference between, okay, I didn't like that shot because I missed focus. I talked about once before that I did a photo project and focus was off shooting 4x5. Okay, that's not acceptable. But if there's a dreaminess to black and white film, if there's a dreaminess to the way film renders color, and it's not clinically tack sharp with every eyelash perfectly defined, I'm not sure that every eyelash is really what we should be going for. And maybe I should preface that by saying not every time at least, because it seems like a lot of people are really, really stuck on how sharp can it be. And to me, if it gets too sharp, it gets to be less than. And I like the feeling of that circus photo. And there's a photo that was on the Online Photographer. They had a discussion about this too. And there was a photograph that they show of a dancer, and that wasn't tack sharp. And it's a beautiful photograph. And so much of what we deal with is, I think, comes back to story. And film can tell that story, and maybe some of that softness can even be part of that story. And digital, we've adopted a new way of creating imagery, and we have to balance it out. Not just how sharp can it be, but what's the story, and does every story need sharpness to tell it well? Or is there a time for a little less sharpness to evoke a feeling? And I'll put a link to, I know where that one photo is that I'm describing as of a dancer, but the idea that sharpness is the king of all, I'm not sure it is. And I'm not sure that there's a lens that you own or I own that isn't perfectly capable and sharp enough. You know, people say, oh, the 20 millimeter you have, that's a dog lens. Why? It's perfectly sharp for what I do. And I don't find that I'm fighting, oh, I can't tell what I'm creating, and I'm fighting the sharpness on it. But somebody must have done a score on it somewhere, and then they said, oh, that one doesn't quite add up. But it works perfectly good. I've done hundreds of photographs with it. So don't think that you need new cameras and new lenses because they come up with one that's a little bit sharper. They're already too sharp. What you need is story and good subject matter and interesting light to document people in their place and to create that, find emotional stories. And then if you do, and you create it with something like film, which has a little bit of a softness, a dreaminess, that may be actually something that accentuates your story. All right, that's today's photography talk. If you're enjoying these, hit the subscribe button. If you can support, hit the Patreon, and thanks so much for watching. I'll be back next week with another photography talk. Here's to good light.